And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are tuned in from. Welcome to another episode of What Now, where I am trying to inspire people during this pandemic. We're still in a lockdown, semi-lockdown, and hopefully I'm still able to bring you motivation and inspiration with my wonderful and amazing guests. For those who are not familiar with the What Now concept, What Now is pretty much born out of the pandemic, where I saw that the whole creative industry was pretty much shut down. Everybody was depressed around me, all the artists and creatives. So I figured, you know what, let me try and bring some unity by letting people know that everybody's going through the same things. And therefore, you know, maybe we can help each other find ways to cope with this pandemic. I see that Instagram is pretty slow, so I'm just going to wait until people are tuning in. Thanks so much, folks, for tuning into another episode of What Now. It's been a year since we've been in this pandemic. I mean, in 2 weeks, pretty much, it's been a year since we had this lockdown, and it means that it's also been a year that I started this series. So I've been at it for a full-on year. I mean, I took a break in December. But honestly, I'm just like, dang, time flies. This is talk number 81, I want to say. So yeah, I just keep going. And I see all my family in here. Thank you so much, guys. And there is my wonderful guest. My guest today is Mr. Lee, platinum producer and entrepreneur, musician, and all things great. So as you can see, in the pinned comment that if you have any questions, put them in the question box. This will be a conversation, so your question will be looked at some point in this conversation because I want to keep it flowing. And yes, Daryl, I am consistent. If this whole year has been crazy and inconsistent, at least this is still here every Monday and Wednesday. So enough yapping of mine. I'm just going to get somebody in here, which is Mr. Lee. Let me find him. Yep, there we go. And party on the road. Yes. I'm excited. Good afternoon, sir.
How's it going?
I am excellent. How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you for wanting to be a guest on my What Now series.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you being here, and I'm thankful to Ali for setting this up. People, yes, I have the most incredible friends who are willing to help me inspire people with inspiring guests. Mr. Lee, first of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
You doing good? Okay, so just to let people that are tuned in know that, you know, What Now was born out of the pandemic. We're trying to help people stay creative and stay inspired in a time where everything is locked down and we don't know what to do and we can't create, we can't do shows, we can't do anything and go to events. And it really much helped to see that other creatives who have had a journey are also going through the same thing. So how are you dealing with this pandemic? How has it affected you personally and professionally?
I mean, actually, it hasn't affected me any because I was already practicing this type of stuff, being that I'm always behind the scenes. So a lot of my business, I've always had the business model of doing a lot of things that I do online.
Right.
So yeah, I've been working from my home for the last 15 years. So it really was practice for me to be ready for this.
That's good to hear.
Yes.
But, you know, that's absolutely great. And I have to say, most producers I've talked to are pretty much, you know, saying the same thing because as a producer, you're in the house, you know, making music and creating. Yeah. But I'm sure it still had some type of effect on you. You know, the people around you are affected. You can't really move as freely if you wanted to. What has been the biggest thing that you had to deal with? What biggest change?
Getting used to doing stuff through Zoom, video calls, getting everybody acclimated to that, you know, having to deal with the technical side of it and just making sure that we can be as optimized as we possibly can during the situation. I think that's one of the most challenging things. And then just coaching people through it, because I think a lot of people were kind of halfway panicking because they didn't really understand how it was going to be to maintain and how were we going to be able to work and different
Right.
things like that. So it did affect me a little because I did have a music studio before, right at the very beginning of the pandemic, and I ended up shutting it down
Oh,
because of
wow.
the pandemic. So yeah, I did get some effects that way, but it still didn't really. Uh,
You were able to
it
deal with
really
it.
didn't. It didn't really do a lot of damage to me though.
Right. So, recording with artists, they used to come to your studio, but since you pretty much already worked online, was that a big change for you? Or, like you said, was it only the coaching people on, doing things digitally?
I think it was more me coaching people because the technology's been there to where I can record people from anywhere in the world right here
Right.
in my house. A lot of people just didn't take advantage of that, and I think now it's making people more aware of options that they have and easier and better ways to spend their money and their budgets more than just
Yeah.
traveling around and doing a lot of different things.
But isn't it true? I don't know, as a producer, that you have sometimes it's good to be in the same room to create from
Hmm.
scratch, to have that energy, to have that feel
Yeah,
of somebody's creativity. I mean, don't you miss that if you have to do a
I
set?
do. I do miss it sometimes, but I kind of spoiled too, and I kind of like both sides. But there is a difference when the people are not in the building with you and you're
Yeah,
not in the room with them. So it's a huge difference. And don't get me wrong, it's some hurdles and different things that you have to get used to in order to keep moving in the same manner that you were before the pandemic started.
right. So do you feel that the new music that you've been creating since the pandemic, do you feel that it would have been different if you were in the same room as the artist, or do you feel like nothing's changed as far as your creativity is concerned?
I mean, as far as my creativity is concerned, I've been a bona fide music producer my entire career, so
Right.
it
You know
really
how to
doesn't
do it.
change. It really doesn't change anything when it comes to me, my process, and what I do.
That's good. So how about personally? Have you had to make any changes to your health, your routines, or is your routine pretty much the same? Again, I've spoken to many producers. They usually have their routine in the house or in the studio, but has there been any changes for you?
Yeah, it's been a very big change for me because I was a post prior to the pandemic, I was a diabetic. And after the pandemic hit, I had a lot of time to figure out my diet and my body, and I've lost over 40 pounds.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm no longer on diabetic medication. I'm no longer classified as a diabetic.
That's
So,
amazing.
I mean that it was a blessing in disguise for me, really.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's amazing to hear. And I honestly think that's very valuable for this conversation, because you basically are the walking testimony that you can make a change by changing your habits and your diets. What
Absolutely.
are some of the specific changes in your food intake that you made?
Well, pre-pandemic, I was probably drinking about 2.5, 6 packs a day of soda. I was eating fast food at least 3 or 4 times a day, and candy and all kind of stuff. I was just really just going bananas on this stuff. So so now after the pandemic is hit, I don't eat any carbs, no sugar, nothing that
Wow.
would actually elevate my blood sugar levels. I don't eat it like rice, breads, beans. I don't eat any of that stuff.
Okay,
I haven't
wow.
had any fast food in almost over a year now.
That's amazing. So
Yeah,
you obviously you're going to keep up with that. What did your doctor
absolutely.
say?
I work out every day now, so I ride my bike about 20 miles per day, and I was going to balancing a little bit more because I kind of went overboard with it, but I'm like really into the whole workout thing now.
Well, you can never work out too much, I always say.
No, no.
It keeps you healthy. What was the response from your doctor?
They were blown away. They were like, wow, last time you came in here, my blood pressure was high. My blood sugar levels were averaging in the 300s when I was waking up in the morning. So now my blood sugar levels are averaging anywhere from 80 to 90.
That is so amazing.
Yeah, so I could have had a stroke or heart attack at any time the way I was living.
Right.
I just
So
totally
this
took a heart
pandemic
attack.
pretty much saved your life.
It absolutely did.
Oh wow, that's so amazing to hear that. That's a great blessing that came out of this pandemic. I mean,
Yes.
in the 80 talks that I've had, this is probably the most amazing change that I've heard. And I've done a lot of talks, like I said. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
No
Um,
problem.
yeah. Oh, I just see that you have a food line coming out for.
Yes, I do. This kind of inspired that. Also, I have what you call a diabetic. It's really a carb-free fish fry and a carb-free batter for frying chicken. And I have a cookie line coming out. And I was inspired to do this because a lot of people like to eat chicken and a lot of people like to eat fried fish. I'm one of them. You know, I'm from the South, so of course we like
Yeah.
to eat that. And it was like, okay, you're going to cut all carbs out, no fried foods, no breads, no rice, no nothing.
Wow.
I had to figure out how to substitute the foods that I was not eating anymore. Like for rice, I
Yeah.
substitute rice with cauliflower.
Yep. I do the cauliflower
Yes,
rice
and I
too.
do cauliflower with my pizza. And for frying fish, it was a hack that I found for frying fish. I crumbled up and grinded up pork rinds really, really fine.
Wow.
And I dipped the fish in it just like I would do a cornmeal. And I could put it
Right.
in the air fryer or fryer, and it fries the same exact way. It actually tastes better.
It's better. Okay.
And it
Yeah. I've
gives you the
been.
same feel of eating fried foods. You can do it with chicken and everything else. So that inspired me. I couldn't find it anywhere in any market. So that's something that I'm working on. And I also have a protein drink that I'm working on also. It tastes just like Starbucks, but it has zero sugar in it.
That's
So
great.
those are some of the things that I'm trying to promote because I feel like the problem with African American health is that we don't have any knowledge about our health. I had none. I
Right.
didn't really understand that. Yes, I was a diabetic, but I was a diabetic because I was eating foods and different things that my body could not digest that well. And the
Yeah.
reason that I was able to find it out, I went on a diet called Keto, which is no carb, no sugars.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
once I went on that for months, then I started bringing some of the food back into my diet. But as a diabetic, I was able to go in, eat the food, test my blood sugar level, see what spiked it and what didn't. And I was able to determine what foods I can really eat and
Right.
what I couldn't eat. So now I don't really check my blood sugar levels now because I know that
Because
everything's
you already
normal.
know.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Is there like a cookbook or something coming?
Yes,
Like
it
recipe,
is.
I need recipes. Like it's
It
fine to
is.
have all the substitute foods, but I need
Yes.
recipes.
Because we can still eat Southern style food
Right.
and not have all of the stuff in it that's going to make us sick.
Right.
So, that was my biggest pet peeve. I was like, am I going to do? Like I like to eat chili,
Yeah.
but chili has beans in it. But I
Yeah.
don't cook chili with beans anymore. I
Please.
use diced sweet potatoes.
Oh wow.
And it tastes so good.
Did
It
you come
actually
up
tastes
with
better
all
because
this?
it's hint, a sweet taste in the chili
Right.
now. And it is so good.
But did you come up with all this yourself?
My wife helped me develop all of this stuff, so it was really weird going through the whole thing, the sweet potato pasta, again, the cauliflower pizza.
Yeah.
I even determined and even learned, as crazy as this may sound, the most healthy pizza that you can buy that could be delivered to you is a thin crust Domino's pizza.
Really?
Picture that. It does zero to your blood sugar levels because it has no gluten in it.
Wow.
So if you eat that, it doesn't do anything to your blood sugar levels at all.
That's
And the
interesting.
most detrimental fruit that you can eat in a diet and being a diabetic or having diabetic systematic problems is melons, watermelon, cantaloupe,
Really?
because they are carbs and sugar.
I love melons.
They are
Oh
double
my
threats. You can
gosh.
still eat it, but we eat abundant amount of that stuff, whether it's cantaloupes or whatever melon
Yeah,
it
I
is. We
love
eat a
all
lot of it.
melons.
That
Oh my
can that
gosh.
that can spike your blood sugar levels up really high.
But you know what? Over here where I live in Amsterdam. I pretty much only eat melons in the summertime because
Yeah.
the fruit out here ain't shit in the winter. Like, so yeah, oh my gosh, I'm addicted to melons. I can eat
Yeah.
whole melons like all day, every day.
I
I
used
didn't
to
know.
I used to do it too. I actually, when I started going on my quest to figure out my what I was gonna be able to eat, I ate a piece of watermelon one day and my blood sugar levels were like 100, and I ate it, and it shot up to like 300.
Oh, you know what? I may have
But
to
it
check
still
myself.
had something to do with my body not building the insulin. Like it's building insulin way different now. So yeah, I can eat it now.
Right,
But a person that's a diabetic, that's you have to really stay away from that until you are able to get your body back to
right.
normal status where you can eat a couple of pieces of watermelon and it's not gonna affect your body that way.
Right.
So
Well,
yeah.
I have to say, I love all this information. I definitely will be looking forward to the cookbook and all the, helpful information that you have on healthy foods or substituting certain foods. But I do want to say that not everybody reacts to diets or foods the same.
No.
So in order to protect maybe my love for melons, I'm gonna have to check what the melons do with me.
Yeah, you have to study it. It's all
Yeah,
knowledge. That's exactly what it is. It's all knowledge, and our bodies are they do react differently.
yeah,
If everybody had the same thing, then
yeah.
you know what I mean, we can just say, okay, this is what it is, but your
Exactly. You
body
can.
reacts differently. So
Yeah.
that's the thing that about it is why it's so easy for a doctor to practice medicine and say, okay, if you're a diabetic, I'm going to give you this metformin, or you can take insulin shots, and after you eat, take that shot, or a certain
Right.
period of time. But it's a band-aid. You know what I mean? You're really just ramping up and then going down, ramping up and going down.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I really just watched my family, my mother and father deal with diabetes, and it really made me say, okay, you know what? I'm about to be 50, so it's time for me to get it together.
My dad was a diabetic and he kept warning me because my dad ate everything. I'm kind of like my dad. We come from a family that loves food. My
Yeah.
nickname is Piggy Pay. And so, before my dad passed away, he kept being on my ass about eating. Like, you can't
Hmm.
eat this. You can't. I'm like, Dad, let me live. And he was just trying to protect me from ending up like him. And so after he passed away, he had cancer, but still, he was diabetic. And so I'm really taking that into consideration.
Yeah.
And I get older and I feel my body's responding different to food now than when I was younger. So I do have to really pay more attention to that. So thank you for all this
Yeah.
information.
We have to be very conscious to understand that some cancer and a lot of other ailments that happen to us are caused by the medication we take too.
Yeah.
So it's like you taking one medication to stop something else, and then there's studies that
Yeah.
say some diabetic medication cause cancer. But the biggest thing that I've learned from this entire quest on getting my health together is to understand that we eat a lot of unnatural foods. Like
Yes.
beans in the wild are
Processed
not
foods
eaten
also.
by, we don't eat beans. We don't eat rice. It's not out there for us to eat. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
It doesn't
cooking
grow
bread and all of that
like
stuff
that.
is unnatural things. So you kind of have to look at that and be like, okay, well, my body wasn't really meant to eat this anyway. But it's like you said, we live in different regions. You
Yeah.
live in a different region, so your diet is going to be different from mine. We have to understand what our bodies
Are
are
saying.
doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's interesting too because I know there's about 1,000 food ingredients that are banned over here that are allowed in the States, because we have stricter food regulations. And we honestly we don't have the southern foods like you guys do because
Yeah.
whenever I'm in the States, whenever my sister lives in Houston, I'm there every year pretty much. I like to go to Frenchies and whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, but that's my guilty pleasure when I'm there. And then when I get home, I'm back on my so-called European healthy diet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I have my taste for the southern foods.
You
That's
got to, man. It's the best food ever to taste.
I know. And
Sure.
so if you have substitutes for that are healthier, then I'm definitely
Yes.
going to
We
try.
definitely have them, and
Yeah.
it's way hefty, and it tastes just as good, if not better.
Right. Because it honestly it doesn't matter what it is as long as it tastes good. That's what I
That's it.
always.
It's the seasons and the texture of it as well.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I know that most of the people are tuned in because of your musical journey, but I
Right.
really appreciate the sharing of the health journey because that's very important, especially in these times where everybody has to cook for themselves because restaurants are closed and everything. So that was a really, really great addition to this talk. But going into your musical journey, I found your story very interesting. It's not like any other story that I've known about from producers or musicians. So, how did your love for music start? I mean, I read the bio, but for the people that are tuned in.
I mean, it basically started at home with my dad. My dad is a solo gospel singer, and I began my quest in playing the piano at the age of 8, and really started learning it around the age of 9. And once I picked up on it, I started playing the piano for him in the church that we attended, and that's really when I fell in love with it.
Right. And so I read also that you play several instruments, that you're classically
Absolutely.
trained. Can
Yes.
you tell me
Yes.
which ones you all play?
I played bass clarinet, saxophone, the flute. I played the xylophones, and a couple of other instruments. The oboe I've played, and I played a little bit of trumpet. But I was a all-state band member, and I also was in the McDonald's band in the
Right.
90s. Yeah,
Was that
so
drums?
when I was in a McDonald's band, that was the clarinet. I played the clarinet in McDonald's.
Okay. So do you feel like knowing this, knowing how to play all these instruments, did that play a big part in you producing?
Yes and no, because once I started being a producer, I had to dumb down my talent in order to fit in
Really?
and make it fit. You know what I mean? When I first started, I was too musical. I was doing too much, so I had to learn how to scale my whole talent down. And that's why some of the best producers are the ones that don't have any music theory experience whatsoever. They
Right.
actually be the best ones because they can hear things in a different way. I actually had to train myself to listen to things
Wow.
in a different manner in order to
Right.
make it fit. Yeah.
That's interesting that you say that, because not a lot of people understand that that's a whole different ball game. Like,
It is.
being classically trained. So you read music too. You can read sheet
Yes,
music.
I can read
Yeah.
and write.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, I actually can do too, because I played the piano and I know how to read music. But
Yes.
yeah, I was wondering about that, because not a lot of people understand that there's a difference in that, and also depending on what type of production you want to do, obviously.
Yes.
So what was for you the defining moment that you felt like, wow, I can actually make money with this? Was that already in the band, or?
No, when I got to rap a lot is when I really found out that
Right.
I was able to make money with it, and it happened so quick because I moved to Houston in the late 1995, and I signed my contract with Rap a Lot December of 1995,
Wow.
and probably about 5 or 6 months after that, I had made over $500,000.
That's insane. So how
Yes,
did
and
how did you
that
get
went
picked
from
up?
zero money to that.
Because I know that you got that meeting with Big Chief. How did
Yes.
that happen? Did you hustle that yourself, or?
It was all just, I guess it was just lined up in the stars for me to do that because I had met a guy in the guitar center. His name was Lakewood, and he had a keyboard that I was familiar with. And he didn't know how to work. And coincidentally, he lived a couple of blocks down from the record store that Big Chief owned. And he knew people that worked at that record store. So we started making tracks at his house, and we ended up sending the demo tape to the record store. And that's how I got to meeting with Big Chief.
Oh wow. So the reason why I ask these questions is because it's great for you that that worked out within the span of a year, pretty much,
Yes.
going from getting signed, or actually moving to Houston, and then maybe a little than a year later, you are making big checks. And I
Yes.
want people to understand, people that are watching this, for the inspiration, motivation, that that's not the usual way. And it's
No, it's not.
great if that happens, but don't expect that stuff to happen. Work for it, because I'm sure you worked to be in that position, even though that
Absolutely.
happened really fast.
Absolutely. But it could happen that fast. But the climate of the music industry now is like totally different now because there's no value on people's talent and time. You
Right.
know, a lot of people talk about business practices from Rap a Lot, but Rap a Lot paid me for every minute that I worked there, and that was very important for me to be able to achieve the financial goals that I was looking for.
Right.
Because at that time, they would really just cutting checks for every single thing. So this day and time, you may go in and do records with a person in the studio, and you may not see a dime
Right.
of it.
So what do you
So
advise these artists or up and coming producers to go? How should they go about it now in these times?
they have to really establish the business in front of the work
Right.
and draw boundaries on how they're going to conduct business and what the process is going to be.
Yes.
You can't do the work and then started asking questions because it's easy to get brushed off and blowed off after the work is done, and you don't have any negotiating power once somebody has their work in your hands.
Right.
You know, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of different options they can take when they know that a record sounds good and you don't want to comply with their terms. They can always find somebody else to do the music over
Right.
and all of that kind of stuff. But they might just simply just stop answering the phone. So you always have to put the process, the business in front of the process.
And it's funny that you say that. I just advised an artist like a week ago that he should really do that because he didn't do it. And I'm like, oh, these people are going to take advantage of you. And it's just, please set your
Yes,
standards beforehand. And if they say no, let them say no, because
exactly,
this is the value that you put on yourself. Don't be scared that you're not going to get the project, because if you have to get it like that, it's not worth it.
exactly.
But yeah, a lot of people are just too scared to say no because they think that everything is an opportunity, and that's not always
It's
the case.
definitely not. You know, I mean, being popular and being broke is not a good feeling.
It's not a good look. No. So, having been in this game for so long, what do you feel? Can you share some of your biggest mistakes that turned out to be the biggest lessons that you now apply and give out to others?
I'm always learning some. And I think the biggest problem and the biggest mistakes that anybody can make in this business is being personal with business. And I never could understand why Little J from Rap Live would do some of the things that he would do. And I was like, man, we're like family and you doing this. I understand now, because you cannot cross those two lines up.
Right.
I've had so much grief in trying to be personal in business. It caused me to get in lawsuits, caused me to go through social media bullying some of it, because once it was time to do business, I stood my ground and they didn't like it. You know what I mean? So it's like
Right.
you always have to separate those two and be very concise and clear about what you are doing. And if you're doing business with somebody and you guys are not meeting the terms, never yield to somebody's terms that you really don't agree with.
Right.
And try to make it work, because it's not going to end
No.
well. And
So
that's something I had to really learn.
do you feel like you can get personal after the business is established and signed, and can you be
Some you can,
personable?
but you know what I mean, it's even with that, it's no loyalty in this business
Yeah.
with the artists that you work in or the fans either. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, you put a lot of time and you're investing a lot of time and effort into doing something. And when they get there, they already have a punch list of the people that they were dreaming to work with. So guess what? You're going to fade out into the
Yeah. Yep.
dark line. You know what I mean? You're not going to be thought of, especially if you don't have anything in writing that says, hey, when you get this deal,
Yeah.
I am, going to be responsible for this amount of tracks, and this is what my
Right.
fee is going to be. If you don't have that in writing ahead of time, I've seen 99.9% of every artist that got their career off the ground and they blew up, the people and the producers that they work with, 80% of them did get paid. And when they did get paid, it was after the records that came out and all of this stuff, and they had to go through lawyers and all of this. And then they don't even end up working with them anymore.
Right.
So, it's just a lot to deal with.
So when you talk about there's no loyalty anymore, I've spoken to a lot of my guests about having a good team around you, working with the right people to get to where you want to be, or to, to win together. How is that for you when you talk about there's no loyalty in this game? Do you have a team, and how do you trust them to be on your team?
I mean, I'm 50, so I know what it feels like. And I have a lot of people around me that I've had relationships with for over 20 years.
Right.
So I know when I deal with people in their interest, I can tell. You know what I mean? If
you
they
can
are
tell now,
really,
but how is that?
yes.
How is that for you? Because obviously, 20 years in, you kind of know who got your back and who doesn't.
Yeah.
But for the people that are trying to get in this business,
There's no such thing as that. They have
right.
to have, everything has to be documented with the
And you got to
business.
build.
You have to build it that way, and people have to be committed by paperwork.
Yeah.
because these kids out here, they don't have any. We're losing the value of what we are and who we are in this business because there's nobody telling these kids this. And when you do tell them, they feel like you hate it. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
I've been doing this almost 30 years. So I always tell people, and it's a little cocky, but I've been living in a $1 million house for almost like 25 years plus.
right.
And that's a hard thing to do in the music business,
Yeah,
especially when I'm not no A-list celebrities. So it's like, okay, when your celebrity status starts to dwindle away and you have all of these bills and this upper echelon lifestyle that you have to start figuring out how are you going to maintain that. And I
yeah,
think if a lot of people look at this pandemic is practice for that time.
yes,
And you know, you
very
can kind of
much.
look at it and say, okay, well, the shows are gone, this is gone, so is this how it's going to be when
Yeah,
my career starts to dwindle down? I need to start making preparations and understanding
yes.
where I'm at.
Yeah, that is very true. This pandemic is really, making people think, how are you going to get your passive income, so to speak,
Yes,
your sleeping income, so you don't have to work and you don't have to worry about getting this project or that project. That's where we all ultimately want to be, no matter what industry you are in. I would
absolutely.
assume, I would imagine, maybe not everybody. And if you're happy in your 9 to 5 cubicle, go ahead.
Yeah.
But yeah, not for the creatives, probably. Um, who were some, because you worked with so many of the greats. I mean, I can't even mention everybody. Who is a person that you absolutely were amazed by working with as far as inspiring you?
I think the biggest influence and inspiration I've had my entire career has to come from Scarface
Yeah.
because he's so talented and
Oh wait, hold on, I can't hear you anymore. Is that me? Oh, what's happening? I don't hear you. I'm not sure if that's me or can you hear me? I don't hear anything anymore. Sound is out. Yeah. Can people hear me though? Why is this happening? That happened with Fredro as well. This never happened. Okay. Lee, can you? Yes, exactly. I don't know why. Why is this happening to me? What's going on, Instagram? Are you blocking me from great conversations? Like, this is insane. This never happened. Um, okay, let's see if he's gonna come back in. This is ridiculous. Always when it's a great conversation. Thanks, guys. I'm sorry for this. I don't know. I think Instagram is hating on me. Um, yeah. So let's see if he can come back in. There he goes. All right. I hope this works. Let me know if you hear him, guys. I think he's coming back in. Yeah, they hating on me for real. Like, this is not cool. This is the second time this happened. And always with the greatest guests. I'm sending him a request. Man, this was just getting good. So, let's hope he's coming back in. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Yeah, Ali, can you tell him to close the app and reopen? Because everybody was still hearing me, right? It's not me. I'm just going to blame it on the guest. Hey, Nate, what's going on? Jimmy, I see your funny remarks and stuff. So I'm trying to keep a straight face because the conversation is actually really good. So, whew. Yeah, I think it's over there. It now says he's unable to join. So it was just getting great. We were getting to the good stuff. Well, it was all good stuff. So, okay. Well, if anybody has questions, I see all the questions in there. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I had to look fresh for this, of course. My name ain't Pay Fresh for no reason. Oh, there he goes. Let me see if I can get him in now. Alrighty then. Oh, it's great. My sister from Houston is also tuned in. Shout out to Rebecca, my sister. Yep, we're going to be cooking according to Mr. Lee's recipes when I'm back there. All right, let's see if he can get in. Doesn't Look like it. Yeah, he's back. I sent him a request to come in, but he's not accepting it or possibly not being able to join. Isn't that crazy? Like, people are literally going to the moon and stuff, and then we can't get this damn Instagram live to go well. Yeah, I did send him an invitation. Oh, there he goes. All right, let's see if this works. Come on, people, send good energy, send good vibes, because this is a good conversation. Yes.
Oh, here we go.
There we go. There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
I'm going to blame it on you, but because people were still hearing me, but that's okay. We're just going to continue our great conversation, and hopefully the connection will stay well. Like I was saying, we can go to the moon, but we can't get an Instagram live together, but we'll make it work. We were talking about Scarface. Oh, uh-oh. He's freezing. Okay.
In my entire career. And I'm not saying that
Hold on.
in a
There
bias.
you go. We lost you for a minute. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Scarface is definitely the most talented artist that I've ever worked with. And the reason is that because he's just multifaceted in every instrument. His songwriting skills are incredible, and what he expects out of you musically is amazing. So he's definitely number one on my list.
And it's great for to hear you mention that, between all the greats that you've worked with, that you instantly knew who the man shit. I think that's amazing. But we all knew that you were a big fan, so I think it's definitely inspiring to see that, when you have a goal, then you just go for it, and you'll be able to work with people that you admire and that you want to create with. Are there any people on your list that you still want to work with at this point?
I mean, I really don't have a list. I'm really just trying to, just challenge myself to work with new artists and develop more artists.
Right.
So I really don't have just a list per se of what I'm looking for. Okay.
So let's talk about Nipsey, the Blue Laces series. So what's crazy is that, this month it'll be 2 years that Nipsey passed away. And what's also crazy is Nipsey passed away on the same day my dad passed away, March 31st, 2019. Wow. Yeah. So that was a sad day in my life. So yeah, it's been 2 years, but there's still new stuff coming out. Blue Laces 3.
Yeah, we have Blue Laces 3, and I have several new other records that I have with Nip that we recorded over the years that we're going to be releasing. So I'm pretty much excited about that. But it's crazy bittersweet not having him here.
Yeah.
And we had a very close relationship, and I actually talked to him like a couple of days before he passed away. And it's just something that I'm still not used to.
No, it's not that long ago, honestly. No. If you were that close with somebody, 2 years is nothing.
No.
Can you tell me a little bit more about your relationship with him? How was that?
We met in late 2006. He had just got out of jail, and we met up in New York, and we stayed out in New York for a month and worked. And that's when we really started our relationship. He used to call me Unc, and I called him nephew. I was much older, of course. And I mentored him and kind of helped him with his sound. And, it was just a real dope relationship to have. We used to always compliment each other and tell each other how much we appreciate each other. And it was just so much respect and love between me and him. So I was just incredibly devastated when that happened.
Yeah, I can imagine. But it's also very beautiful for you to still be able to release his music, because it's kind of like a tribute to him as well, and still, showing the world his talents.
Right. He was a great person. The world never will be able to experience exactly what he had in store musically, as a philanthropist, a person that really was all about his neighborhood and all of that kind of stuff. They really didn't even get a chance to experience what he was going to do and who he was
Right.
going to. He was a very great and special person.
Well, you're very lucky to have experienced him and have had that relationship with
Absolutely.
him. And I'm actually happy that you're still sort of continuing on with his legacy by putting out music that we don't know yet. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
Yes.
Talking about, him just being released from jail, one of the interesting and inspiring parts of your story, going out of Black History Month, but still being in a world where just crazy shit is happening globally as far as, racism and social justice. I found it very interesting in your story that you actually got your charges dropped because of, all your accomplishments. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because it's an incredible story. I mean, as a Black man, come on now.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, basically, my entire 10 years, the first 10 years of my career, I was on the run. So I got into some legal problems, and in Louisiana, where I grew up and where I lived, and I really just my back was against the wall. I was either going to stay in the streets and become an habitual criminal or get my life together. So I decided to get my life together. In the process, I had a criminal case in Louisiana that I was charged with and found guilty of for simple burglary, and I had an 8-year probation to do for that, and I violated it. So I had an 8-year prison sentence that was lingering with me being on the run, and then I had another drug case. Of course, was selling drugs because I couldn't get a job,
Right.
and once I kind of got to Houston and I leveled off and I got into the music, that's what saved me. And then I was good friends with Willie Nelson and his friends, and the guy that said named Randall Jamel is actually the godfather of my children in Houston. He at the time the Enron stuff was going on, he knew some attorneys that was working that case, and they took on my case. And I got into the courtroom, and they seen everything that I've done over those past 10 years.
Yeah.
Totally dropped everything and let me walk away. So
That's
yeah, so
it's
music is a lot more to me than just a job. It saved my entire life.
Yeah, it saves your life. And that's something that I wanted to address in this talk as well, because I know there's a lot of people that be, watching this, whether now or later on, to understand that if you're getting into this business, I mean, me being, the utopic person, do it for the passion, do it for the arts. But a lot of people nowadays do it for the money and the fame. And people have to realize that it can be so much more than just that. I mean, you are, again, a walking testimony of that as well as a Black man in America, having those charges dropped because of your hard work and your accomplishments. So people have to keep that in mind, that, if you do things with the passion that you have, then it'll do more for you than just make money.
Absolutely, it's actually more to it than money. You know what I mean? Once I was able to learn that wealth is a process, wealth is not about the money. When you're working and doing things for money, you never obtain wealth that way.
Right.
All of it has to be cohesively working together. You have the knowledge, the power, the money, all of that stuff has to be equally yoked in order to get there. So that's the question I'm on right now, and I
Right.
totally get it and understand it. So.
And it's funny, you said earlier you're always learning. Do you feel like there was a point where you were like, okay, this is what I need to do in life, or is it still an ongoing process?
It's still an ongoing process. I wake up and I learn something different about myself every single day.
What is something you learned today so far?
Just to try to be more dedicated and get more things done into my day than that I have been doing. I feel like I can get more things done. It's
Okay.
being passive and kind of letting the day pass by and not really capitalizing on every minute. It's
Right.
something I'm trying to conquer right now.
Well, that's a good goal to have. I see a bunch of questions from people. There's a whole bunch of questions. Okay. Did you ever try to rap?
I did rap for a short period of time. I was in a rap group actually before I signed to Rap a Lot. So I was rapping when I was a kid.
How did that
Yeah,
go?
it went okay. It wasn't
What
like,
made you decide that that wasn't your thing?
well, I was a music producer too. But you know, when you're an amateur rapper and then you actually get thrown in a room with people like Scarface, then you kind of decide, you know what? Let me just stick to the music part because these guys got the rapping stuff covered. So I kind of just veered away from it. But I actually have helped write hooks and stuff for Scarface throughout my career. So that was an honor to be able to do that. So, you know, all of the stuff that I did when I was a child in my childhood and being a teenager, it helped mold me to have skills that I needed to pursue different things in my adulthood. So, you
Right.
know, it definitely worked.
So, another question is to talk about your grandfather. We talked about your health journey. What can you tell us about your grandfather?
My great grandfather is the original inventor of the airplane. He was the first American in American history to go in flight with an airplane in American history. He was the first man, not black man, the first man to have a patent on that airplane in American history.
Oh, wow. So how many people know this or should know this?
Evidently, a lot of people have been knowing it. I'm kind of taken aback about it because I knew about this since I was 6 years old because I saw the blueprints, but I didn't have any knowledge of the patent until last year.
So what type of influence does that have on your family?
Well, I mean, my family, they're pretty old now, so they don't really look at it the way I'm looking at it. You know what I mean? It really doesn't have a lot of influence on them because you got to think they've been living with this for some of them for
Yeah.
5 and 6 decades. So they're not looking at it like, okay,
It's
oh
been
wow,
there.
they've
It's
been
part of
knowing
the
about it.
history.
Yes, they've been knowing about it. So for me, I'm looking at it like, you know what? I'm going to make sure that my great grandfather gets everything that he deserves to have. You know, as far as his memory is concerned and accolades that he achieved, they need to be recognized. So I'm on a full-fledged mission to make that happen.
So it's an actual plane.
That was an actual plane.
Do you know which one?
Plane, it was called an airship. He got the patent in 1903.
Oh,
It's
wow.
all on it's on the internet. You can look it up. His name is
I'm going to
Charles.
look it up.
His name is Charles F. Page, and his patent is on the internet. It was actually a write-up in a newspaper back in had to be like 1896 when he first started working with this, and they actually wrote an article on him when he took flight with his airplane in the local newspaper in Louisiana. So it's been a record of this. And then when you kind of go back and you look at the articles on the Wright brothers and you look at what
Yeah.
they said that they were considered to be the first inventors of the airplane. They didn't say that they were. So they put it in that way because they knew that it was somebody else that did it. And
Right.
actually,
I thought they were the first to fly.
yeah, they
But
weren't even the first. They weren't the first to fly either. It was somebody overseas that actually flew an airplane before they did.
Oh, well,
And I
see
learned
how
that
history
too.
has to be twisted and turned to
Yeah,
somebody's advantage.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
always the case.
But
We used to that.
it's always like that. But I mean, what I've learned from this is that, and I'm learning this in my own career also, is that if you don't toot your own horn,
Yeah.
nobody's going to hear.
Nobody
If you
else
wait for
will.
somebody to go mash it for you, then it's not going to happen.
And this is why we have to tell our stories and document them, because
Exactly.
once you're gone, it's nobody's gonna, care about it more than your own family.
Nobody's going to know anything about it. My great
Right.
grandfather was also contributed to inventing the parachute. It was a
Yeah, we need that. That
butcher
saves
blade.
lives.
A butcher blade he had invented, and he had gave to one of his kids and told them to get patent. They never did. He owned a
Oh,
cemetery in my hometown, which he's buried in with no headstone. He owned a 2-story mansion in the 1800s. I actually started my piano lessons and learned to play music in his house.
oh, wow.
His house had a library in it and everything. So imagine I get my big break and I'm gung ho. I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna restore my
Right.
great grandfather's house. And I get there and it's torn apart. It's on the
Oh,
ground.
That's no, that's
because
did you
our family just didn't see the value in keeping it up. And
did you see a
sometimes
chance to renovate it or restore it?
they didn't do any of that. So now I'm going to I'm actually in the process. I already got an approval from a team. I won't disclose it yet, but we have somebody that's getting ready to reconstruct his airplane.
Oh wow.
And after they do that, I'm going to get his house reconstructed, because the story with the airplane is he sent the airplane off to Louisiana Purchase for a contest they had for $100,000,
Wow.
which was in the Midwest, in the same area where the Wright brothers are from. He shipped it out, and they apprehended his airplane, and he never saw it again.
Oh my gosh. The
Yes.
thieves.
They took his
Um,
airplane, and he never saw his airplane again. So he kind of regrouped, and he worked for a cemetery for a couple of years. And then he was so ambitious, he bought his own land and started his own cemetery where he's at now. And he also invented sharecropping also. So
so
he was multifaceted in a bunch of things.
and you know what? You got the creativity from your grandfather.
Exactly.
So
I always wondered where I got it from. My mother discussed it with me. We always used to talk about. She's like, now I understand where you got it from, and it's
yeah.
ironic enough. This story has so many twists to it because my mother was a quote unquote illegitimate child. She was born out of wedlock, and you know what I mean, with her father and her mother. So she wasn't always looked at as one of the grandkids and all of
Right,
that kind of
right.
stuff. So, it's just the irony of now the illegitimate child's son is the one that's going
Just
to
doing
get
the great
get
things.
justice. Yes. So
Yeah.
they know just how
So
it works.
so who's writing the movie script for this?
I have a couple of people that we have working on it right now. We're doing a documentary first, and then we're gonna write the script up, and we're gonna shoot a movie for it.
Oh, cool. Well, I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
excited.
Here's another great question from another great person, Mike Geronimo. What songs that you produced sticks with you the most and why?
Uh, Blue Laces is like the most sentimental records for me right now. Both of them, the one and two, because number one was instrumental because that was the beginning. Get this, that was the beginning of my relationship with Nipsey Hussle when we did
Right.
Blue Laces. That was the very first record that I got in the studio and did with him. Blue Laces 2 was the very last record that I did. And coincidentally, Billboard named Blue Laces, they named the top 10 records. Blue Laces was number 10 and Blue Laces 2 was number 1. And that
Wow.
was the only record that he had that had sequels to it. So, those two records are the most important records in my entire career right now.
So what inspired you to do Blue Laces 3?
We were already working on it. We were
Right.
we were
So
going
you
back
just
and
want to
forth with
put it out.
ideas. Yeah, we were going back and forth on ideas and different stuff, and the beat was already done. I have lyrics that match the track. They're not actually the actual Blue Laces lyrics that he would have rapped because he didn't get a chance to record it. So just the track
Yeah.
alone and what we shared in ideas of conforming it, I just felt entitled to. I just want that. I think that's the way that I'm finding my closure with this is to put this
Right.
record out.
I
Really,
yeah,
honestly,
I can imagine.
yeah,
But like I said, it's also a great tribute
absolutely,
to keep on, putting his art out there.
yes.
Let me see. Well, I kind of asked some of these questions already. Okay, somebody asked, what is your favorite piece of equipment to use? That's Mike.
NPC is something that I've been using the whole time I've been a producer. So for me, I feel like not having an NPC is like a cardinal sin if I don't have that. So I
Missing
think
an
that
arm.
that's my drum machine. So I have to have that.
And if you had to pick a musical instrument, what would it be?
Piano, off
Oh, the
top.
piano.
And that's something that's my first love. That's when I first fell in love with music. So piano is definitely a very important instrument for me for sure. That's how I vent and grieve and go through emotions with the piano. That's
Right.
how I do it.
So earlier, I asked you if there were people on your so-called bucket list that you didn't have. One of the reasons why I ask these questions is to speak things into existence as far as people working with others. You already told me you don't really have a list and that you're really looking forward to working with new people. Who are some of the
Yeah.
new talents that you can put us onto?
Um, Man, that's a real catchy question. Really, they're not known yet. I'm working with a female rapper named Smitty Hawkins. She's from East Texas. I'm working with her right now. I'm working with another rapper out in Dallas named Stacks, Smoke Stacks. He's a phenomenal rapper as well. And there's just several other people, man. And the really reason why I say I don't have a punch list, I've worked with Scarface, Jay Z, Tupac, LL Cool J. The only big major artist that I haven't touched was Biggie Smalls. So it's
Right.
like, okay, when you've been working that long, it's like everything starts to recycle. You know, if I really just wanted to get in the studio with some artists that I really thought that were going to challenge me musically, it'd be like the Migos, it'd be Kendrick
Wow.
Lamar, people like that. You know what I mean? So when you've been doing it 30 years, you've pretty much seen everything.
Yeah, but still, I mean, you gotta have goals.
Yeah. I mean, I think more for me, I have a gospel album that I'm working on also. So I think it's about creating my own content at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I can
Yeah,
do.
because the climate of the financial climate of the industry is ownership.
Yes.
So I'd much rather do music and own it, and I understand the numbers.
IP
All of that.
assets. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have 60 million record sales under my production name. So it's like, okay,
That's
now
insane.
it's time to build some other stuff. So that's why I'm getting into doing other projects and doing things for myself. I put out an album last year. It did pretty good. This gospel album that I have is super crazy phenomenal, and I have a Nipsey Hussle tribute album and stuff like that. So I'm real focused on my own brand and just developing
Yeah.
artists, because that's all I used to do. I developed Iggy Azalea. I was instrumental in launching
Right.
Machine Guns Kelly's career. Ludacris, I worked with him before he was big and helped develop him a bit. Of course, Nipsey Hussle was the same type of way. So that's I've always been that way. Slim Thug, same type of way. So, it's just that's always been my MO.
Honestly, I think you are very underrated. Like even
I,
after this,
I, I seriously am, but it's okay. I think the financial gain that I get out of this and being able to provide for my children
right?
is rewarding enough for me. I can walk out and not be bothered by people. Some people will recognize
Exactly.
me
I
and
was
they be
gonna
like,
say
it's
that.
weird. It's really weird because they're like, aren't you Mr. Lee? I was at a car wash about a month ago, and this guy was staring at me, and I didn't understand. I didn't know why. What he was looking, and he walks up to me. So, are you Mr. Lee? I was like, yeah. He's like, hey man, I got an artist, and he just started talking. I talked to him, but it was weird. So I'm like, okay,
You got to
I
get
can live
used to
without this.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I'll be back in Houston again. So if I see you on the street, I'll be like, Mr. Lee.
Yeah, we had to do lunch. I had to take to some of my spots out there.
Oh yeah, especially with the health food. Maybe you should open up a restaurant.
Yeah, that's something that I could probably do for sure.
My sister in Houston, she's an artist. She just actually also had an exhibition for the DJ Screw stuff, and she's a visual artist, and she's the one that always has me eating healthy when I'm there. And then my other friends in Houston take me to Frenchies and stuff. So
Yeah,
but now I got another plug for the good food.
exactly.
That's good. As I'm about to round up this amazing talk, because I can probably ask you 5 million more things. One of the last questions I have is, what is some of what is a life motto or advice that you live by that you want to give out to everybody?
Just be consistent with who you are. Never try to run behind something because it's hot or something because there's a lot of light and attention on it. The minute you go out of yourself to be something else that you're not is the minute that you're determined to lose all attraction that you have, because originality is key. It might not be popular all the time, but it's something that you can sustain yourself with. So you always have to make sure that you are being creative in the way that you know how to create, and not being creative because somebody wants you to do
Right.
something that's out of your box. And, you know, so it's not necessarily being a box, just out of your creativity skills or your how you feel and within with your creativity. If you go outside of that, then you're definitely looking to train wreck yourself if you do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless you're trying to, you know, do something new for yourself.
Exactly. If you reinvent yourself, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to conform your talent to what's current and not staying true to what you have and not improving what you have,
Yeah.
and just walking away from that, then somebody else is going to eventually tap into what you had, and you're going to wish you were back there.
Right. Exactly. No, I completely agree. And I think I've been doing a good job doing what I do, not conforming to anybody else's, you know, idea of what I should do. Again, thank you so much for wanting to be a guest. I may want to do a follow-up once all your stuff comes out, and especially with the documentary, the movie, and your health journey. You know, I honestly have, you know, I didn't have any idea that you were doing all of that in the recipes and the cooking, and I'm going to take advantage of that. So thank you so much for all the information and the knowledge that you gave and sharing your story. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And have a great day, and we'll probably be talking soon again.
That'll work.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye. All right, guys, that was an amazing, inspiring, and motivating interview with Mr. Lee. Oh my gosh, there was so much in there that I'm going to apply to my life. So I don't even care if anybody got inspired. I got inspired. So yeah, thank you all for joining. I love my new family being in here. Like, you guys make me feel so loved. And I see all your comments. Don't think I didn't see anything. I'm just staying professional. So yeah, I'll be back on Wednesday again with another inspiring person. This is a lady, a great singer-songwriter from LA who's done so much. So tune in on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern again. And yeah, hopefully we'll see you then. I got a whole bunch of people lined up, man. I'm booked until May. So y'all better stay tuned. I'll see you guys later. Bye.